Hello, friends. The reason we're here today is to uplift your voices, hear from you, your stories, your perspectives as young people who've experienced parental incarceration and also as college students. So we'll start off by introductions. Mick?
Hi, my name is Mick. I graduated from Temple University with a Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice, and I'm currently a first-year law student at University of Maryland Francis King Carey School of Law.
Hi, my name is Dejana. I currently go to the University of Maryland. I'm studying for a criminology and criminal justice degree, and I'm a junior.
Hello, my name is Anasia. I'm a senior at Xavier University of Louisiana, majoring in biology on the pre-dental track.
My name is Amir Hood. I'm a freshman, business administration major, and I'm currently attending Morehouse College.
Hello, my name is Jerome. I am a sophomore at North Carolina A&T and I am studying psychology.
Hi, my name is Althea. I'm studying cinema and I am in my senior year.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deontay Lewis. I'm a senior at Lincoln University where I study business management and I minor in entrepreneurial studies.
For each of you, how old were you when your parent became incarcerated or when you learned that they were incarcerated, and about how many years have they been incarcerated?
My dad has been incarcerated since 2002, so I was 1 year old. I've known that he's been incarcerated for as long as I can remember.
So for me, my dad first got incarcerated when I was about 2 years old, and then he got out and then he went back a few different times. Most recently, he got out on my 16th birthday, so I'm now 21. He hasn't been reincarcerated since then.
So my father was in and out, but from what I can remember, 8th grade, so around 14 years old, my father had went in and he served about 4.5 years. But he's gotten out since 2020. Yes.
My mother was incarcerated when I was the age of 8, and my father was incarcerated since the age of 1.
For me, I remember as early as third grade when my father first went to jail, and then since then he got out, but it's been in and out since then.
I don't know when he got incarcerated. I was 7 when I found out, and I don't know when he was released, but we found out that he ended up getting deported.
I was a month old when my dad got locked up. He's been in prison for 22 years straight.
Thank you all for sharing that. I know these are intimate details of our lives and it's not always easy sharing. So I just appreciate you all being, for your courageousness and bravery and being willing to share. In a lot of instances, guardians, parents, or family members are not always comfortable, or they may be hesitant to share with us that our parent has become incarcerated. Some parents tell their child that their parent is away at camp, or that they're in the military, or that they're away at school. Do you mind just sharing when your parent told you that your father, your mother was incarcerated, or your grandmother, right? Did they tell you initially that they were incarcerated, or did you just not know? Did you find out years later? How was that conversation?
So for me, I found out I went to Banneker High School and I had a bridge program over the summer, and I had just had my promotion from 8th grade. And my father was there, my siblings, everything. And then I would text my father to try to, catch up and everything, tell him how my summer's going and stuff, and he wasn't responding. And my cousin at the time, he was doing electrical work on my high school, and I had asked because they're really close, and he was hesitant to tell me, wasn't telling me anything, and I kept saying, what's going on? And he was like, you haven't heard. And then that's when I found out. I ended up going home asking my mother about it, and she was like, I wasn't going to tell you, and that kind of thing. But I'm the eldest of 5 children, 3 on my mom's side, and I have a younger brother that's also from my father on my mom's side as well. And she didn't tell him for a while, so that's definitely a thing where parents try to hide it. One, because my father was like inconsistent in, at least my brother's life as well. So she kind of try to keep that separate.
How did you feel when you found out and when your mom said, well, I wasn't going to tell you?
I was hurt. I was hurt because, like I said, I had just had, a conversation with him at graduation. So I was just trying to, go to his house. That's my thing of like going to see my other siblings and everything. And I just felt ignored. So then when she didn't tell me, I'm like, well, you could have at least told me, because then I would have, that hurt that I felt from him just ignoring me probably wouldn't have been there had I known from the beginning. So.
Thank you, Anaja. Anyone else?
I found out, well, my father was incarcerated when I was 1. So I kind of found out from my mother. My mother told me, like, I was 4 years old. So I remember, like, talking on the phone to my dad. So I knew where he was at the age of 4. But when I was 8, when my mother got arrested, I came home from school. I was in the 3rd grade. I came home from school. I went to my grandmother's house. And I seen my grandmother crying. And then I asked her, well, she was on the phone with my mom. And I asked her, like, why are you crying? And she had told me, then she said, hey, your mom on the phone, that my mom was crying on the phone as well. And so that's how I found out that my mother got arrested as well. So I started to cry as well, because it's like now I got 2 parents that's incarcerated, so.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Amir.
It was kind of like me with my dad, like the same with Amir. Oh, sorry. The same as Amir. I knew that my dad was incarcerated since he went in when I was so young. Like, that's just what I've known for as long as I can remember. Like, I remember talking on the phone with him and stuff like that. Like, it was just sort of normal for me, getting letters in the mail. My brother, like, tried to, like, I didn't know exactly what he did. And so my brother, when I was younger, told me that I knew he went in for robbery, but my brother told me that he was robbing a toy store to get toys for me to make it seem like less like horrible when I was growing up, even though that wasn't I didn't learn like what he had actually done until I was maybe like in high school.
Mine was kind of similar, like to Mix. I've always known since I was younger, so it was always told to me explicitly, but I didn't know for what for, and I never seen a photo of him ever. It was my father, and it wasn't until like I was 7 that I got a phone call and like no one was home, and it was, we all know the automated phone call where it's like, this is a automated call, recorded message, and I knew his name, so I just knew it was from him. And that was like my first point of contact that I've had with him when I was at 7. And then from then I like saw his first picture, which was his mugshot. So that's how I saw his face for the first time.
For me, I didn't really get the chance to get the school or military life because they raided the house right before school. So they came and did that. My grandfather tried to tell me that it may be jaywalking and he'll be home that night. They don't raid the house for jaywalking. So that was my story.
And how old were you?
I was in 3rd grade, so I was late to school that day. But yeah.
How is your relationship with your incarcerated parent? I know some of them may currently be incarcerated, some may be released, maybe have re-entered society. Like, how has that been trying to establish or reestablish that relationship with them?
Our relationship kind of goes in and out. It's really good right now. I think now that I'm a younger adult, I have more individual and personal views on him, the world, my mother. So I think that he's sort of having trouble, reconciling that. But now that I can like have contact with him directly without, any interference with my mother, it's a lot easier. But there's also the fact that he has a lot of high hopes about coming home soon, but where he's incarcerated in Michigan, it's like they have really heavy sentences. It's really hard to get out. So I think it's been a little hard for me to deal with it, knowing that he's in there and knowing that it's not likely that he's coming home soon. It's hard to talk to him, but he's still my dad, so I still have to pick up when he calls.
Right. I feel like for me, growing up, me and my dad were super close. Like, he was my best friend. Like, him being incarcerated didn't affect our relationship at all. I still talk to him, besides the fact that he wasn't physically there. But he was still my dad. I talked to him almost every day. So it was fine until I got older. And like I said, he recently got re-incarcerated when I was 16. And he did little things that really affected our relationship when he was locked up during that time, because if him and my mom got into it, he wouldn't like call me anymore. And it would go from, I was receiving calls every day when they were good, but if they weren't good, I wasn't receiving calls. So that really strained our relationship. And I don't know, I guess I kind of still like have some of those emotions built up since he's been out, because it's just like, why, you know? But yeah, we have a decent relationship now, I guess.
I would say the same thing about the strain of the relationship once he was in. I would say that my father and I were pretty close when I was younger. I was the only child for, at least by my father, for a very long time. My brother, he's 12, I'm 21, so that's, you know, on my father's side, that's very long. So it was just me and him when we would hang out and everything like that, and I would have my cousins and stuff. But once he got incarcerated, you know, it became like she said, the relationship between the parents determined the relationship between the child. And my mom and my father don't have the biggest track record. And then at the time when my father had went in, he was engaged, and they also have 2 children together. So it's like when they would get into it, then it's like I can't see my siblings. So it's like, you know, you have some resentment towards that too, because now that he's been home, it's like, you don't call me. You know, yesterday he said, you don't call me that much. I haven't heard from you. It's like, I'm a young adult now. I don't really call you because I don't feel like I need to. Or like, it's hard for my relationship between my siblings because, you know, we were distant. So I'm still trying to learn because I'm trying to, you know, create my own patterns because I am a young adult, but it's still hard because I experienced that for so many years.
I hated my dad because I didn't understand growing up why I don't have a dad. Everybody else has a dad. So I feel like over the course of me like maturing, I learned to forgive him, which I did. But we had ups and downs in our relationships because I felt like he was trying to use me for certain things because he couldn't have access to certain things. So afterwards, I feel like we talked about it multiple times, and today, like he says, our relationship is not me trying to be like a dad to you. It's more so be supportive to you. And he has that understanding to me what I need today. So I feel like we're on a better path today.
I'm the same way. I was the same way. I hated him. I did not know why I was the only one. As I got older, it was more of a, because he doesn't choose to keep contact with me because he raised my sisters. He didn't raise me, but I am his daughter biologically. So when I would get those calls, it would be, can you pass me to your sisters? Can you pass me to your mom? And I was very young. I also have a big age gap between me and my sisters. So as I got older, he would also start to try and talk to me, but my mentality is I didn't need you then. Yeah. Now it's more of a, if you want to talk, I'm here, but honestly, I'm trying to make it out on my own. So I can't even be on the phone for that long. So it's more of a, I just don't have one, and I'm pretty cool with it now. Like, it is what it is, but growing up, I was the same way.
I get the thing about like the resentment growing up and not having one, especially like when you're like already out, like when you already exist, you know, and they're still doing something. It's like you weren't thinking about me when you were doing something that you knew would get you locked up. Like, it's like you didn't care to be out here. Are you okay?
I'm gonna cry. I know. I'm back here trying to hold my tears too. Yeah, wow.
It's like, well, you really gotta take it away from yourself. Like, whatever they were doing when they were out there, like, it sucks to think about it, but if they weren't thinking about you, like, that's okay, because you have people that are out here loving on you and trying to provide for you. So, like, you really got to try not to take it personal, because whatever they were doing, that's what they were doing, you know?
Yeah. And for me, I would say the relationship I have with my father, it's similar to what y'all were saying, like, if he wants to talk, you're there, but it's like I don't talk to my father, and the last time I seen him may have been this summer. And the time before that would be November of my
Were you
senior-
visiting him while he's incarcerated?
No, he just showed up to a family event nobody expected him to show up to. And then the time before that was the same thing in November my senior year. So it's like I don't talk to my father, and it's almost at the sense of I don't need him at this point because I've made it this far. Because I haven't had a stable relationship with my father since the beginning of middle school. I'm a sophomore in college now. I've made it this far.
I want to add to that, answer the question as well. So I didn't grow up with my father. My father, he was incarcerated. He came home when I was in the 9th grade. My mother came home when I was in the 4th grade summer. So I've been with my mom. I was living with my mom before she got arrested, and I was living with my mom when she got out. And I was also living with my grandma. But So I never had that bond with my father because he was always locked up. But when he came home in 2020, I was with him for like 2, 3 months. Then after that, I just went back home, just to my own reasons and things like that. But I haven't spoke to him since, and I still haven't spoke to him. So I really don't have that bond with him. Like, it's like I grew up. He didn't raise me, so I didn't care to have a father because I didn't have one before. So now that I mean, there's no point because now I'm really at a teenage age where I not know everything. Where like I'm really kind of going through life already though. But my mother, even before she got arrested, we always had a good bond. It was me, my brother, and my sister. We always had a good bond. My mom, even after now she out. That's who raised me though. Like my mom raised me. That's where I get everything from. Of course from other people too, but that's my mom. She raised me. So yeah, I got a good bond with my mom. Like it's always been the same.
Thank you all for that. For those of you who don't really have a close bond with your, sounds like mainly father, in a lot of instances, do you think that you would be open to maybe having conversations with them in the future, or when it's time to get married and all that, like, or is it just kind of like, I'm not too sure right now? And that's okay. I'm just
I'll probably say, in my opinion, I'll probably say I'm not too sure, because it's like when he came home and then after we went back home, when my mom and him got into it, he didn't reach out to call for birthdays, Christmas, and he know our birthday, he know special holidays and things like that. Like he'll pop up at my mom's house to see my mother when we in school, but then won't pop up over there any other time we at home for my birthday. So it's like, it's really like, what's the point? So in my opinion, I feel as though I don't need to.
I feel like for me, because I feel like in my family it was a cycle, especially on my father's side. Like his father, my grandfather, was incarcerated basically half of his life. My grandfather's 70 plus years old. And then, it kind of trickled down to my dad, similar instances of why they've been incarcerated and everything like that. And I know how much, having a male figure in, your life means, because my grandfather was in replace of my dad for my little brother. So it's like I want that relationship, and I have a great relationship with my grandfather. And while he was incarcerated, I would write letters and like be open, completely honest about how I felt. Going back to what I was saying about, I feel like when he was out before he went in, he was always with my sister and, my other little brother. And it's like, you always spend time with them. And his rebuttal was, well, they're young. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, then you have to, dial back a little bit, and then like you kind of shut down a little bit, then you open back up. So I'm still getting to that point where sometimes now when I feel like hurt or anything, I don't talk about it at all, because I'm like, honestly, you don't really need to know, because if you don't know why you hurt me, then it's no point of even discussing it with you. So I feel like I definitely will, especially later down, because I do want to have children, do want to get married and everything like that. And I feel like that is important, and there's no need to hold that grudge and everything for the rest of my life. Life's too short to do that, so yeah.
What advice would you give to a young child, teenager, or young adult who has an incarcerated parent or formerly incarcerated parent?
Keep going. Like I haven't had a father then. I don't have one now, and I've made it. I have my own place. I've gone to college.
Same.
I help my mom. I have a Christmas. Like I didn't have a Christmas tree growing up. I bought my own Christmas tree this year. Keep going. Especially if they're never in your life. If you're strong enough, you can make it. Keep going. And like growing up, I'm sure we all know it's hard. It is very hard. But if you just keep going, you can make it.
Just know that you're your own person. Like I think that's like something that's, people tell you that like, oh, just because your parent was incarcerated doesn't mean that you have to be that way. You need to really embrace that. And you also need to realize that you have to take control of your life. I respect Amir's answer, especially like saying like, I don't need to reach out. Even if they're family, sometimes you have to realize like there are some things that you just can't handle. Like I was talking
especially if they're toxic, right?
Yeah, and
And
even if it's not even like toxic, but even if it's just like too much for you, like anchor yourself in your life, be independent. You don't have to be tied to your parents, even the non-incarcerated one, if only one parent is incarcerated. Like you're your own person and you can make your own path.
Like how Thea was saying, about being strong enough, sometimes you don't start off strong enough, and you just have to find those group of people, you know what I'm saying, that you can talk to. And it doesn't even have to be about the situation, but also don't be afraid to open up about the situation, because like how we're all sitting here, like I probably wouldn't have met any of them a day in my life if it wasn't for my circumstances. And like, you know, you can talk to them, ask for advice, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't just have to be about, okay, your parent was incarcerated, your friend is incarcerated, whatever. It can be about anything, but you guys connect on something, so you know, you establish a relationship from there. So
To add on to what she said about keep going, I would say the same thing as well. Um, like I said, my mother and my father was incarcerated, and I did try to build that bond. I mean, they tried to build that bond because we is kids, so, but I know that I didn't want to be where they are. Like I know that I don't want to go to jail and that I got a career and a dream to chase. So with them being there, it's just motivation for me to keep going and be successful. So that's my advice, to just really try not to be in a situation. Try to want better for yourself and try to be the complete opposite. Because I'm pretty sure they want you to be better than what they are too. So yeah.
All right, my advice goes back to what was said earlier. With parents that are incarcerated, we now have examples of what not to do. And the areas in which most of us come from, we have examples of what not to do all around us. So, and I feel like it's kind of harder with more examples of what not to do versus what to do, but it is still possible, as you can see from all of the amazing things we're doing. And I say just take that advice and just try, like you were saying, keep going and just keep trying.
Yeah, so like just going back to what everybody said, I feel like I wouldn't be in this position if that didn't happen. Maybe I would have my path, but I feel like I needed to go through this just to build my character, who I am today, and just not being a statistic. Because I guess I could have easily got into the wrong things, and even if I tried to, they wouldn't let that happen anyway. So I feel like just the support system and women I had in my life, and some of the men in my life have contributed to my success today, and the people too.
I agree.
Yeah. I feel like for my advice kind of picks up on a lot of other people's, but what I would say is just like, it's okay to be selfish. And this just wasn't something I knew until recently when I met Miss Yasmine, because I was talking to her and I realized like, it's okay to say no sometimes and not do everything or feel bad when I can't do something for this person. Like, it's okay to say, like, I'm my own person, I can make my own decisions, and it's okay to say, I can't do this, or you're not treating me in the best way, so I shouldn't do this. I don't always have to be obligated to do whatever you would like me to do because you're my parent and because you were incarcerated and because I feel bad for that. It's okay to be selfish sometimes, you know? So that would be my advice, just, it's okay to put yourself first.
From your perspective, in terms of incarceration, like you may hear people say, oh, so-and-so is institutionalized, right? Because it's a totally different, as we know, it's a totally different world inside of, you know, a jail or a prison or like a high max security prison, right? How do you feel or believe that being incarcerated impacted your parent? And do you think like, I'll say the criminal justice system in the United States, is it punitive, meaning punishment driven? Is it rehabilitative, or both, right? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
We got the criminal justice people over here. We about to tear this question up. I guess I'll start by saying, actually, my dad and I had this talk like maybe like a year or two ago, where he was talking about the family was worried about him because he's been in there like a long time.
20 years?
Yeah, 20, he was, so it's like, he was like, people were worried about him, and he sent a letter to everybody, and he said in the letter, he said, you don't need to worry, I'm built for this. And I said to him, because this isn't his first, I think it's his longest bid, but it's not his first. But I told him, I was like, you're not built for this. You're built for, you've endured this, but you're built for something like much better. So don't say that. And he agreed with me. He was like, you know what, you're right, I'm not. I was like, you know, you're making it through, but like, this is like, it's traumatic. And that's why, like, when I was saying before, like my grandmother telling me about stuff that happened, I was like, I can't even begin to imagine. Sometimes I put myself in there. I'm thinking like how could I do that? How could I make it? And I'm just thinking like, I Me personally, I would not be able to make it. Like, I don't think anybody is built for this. Like, on the system at large, I think it's very, very punitive, especially in certain areas. Like, for example, Michigan. Armed robbery, the maximum sentence for armed robbery in Maryland, in the state of Maryland, is 25 years. Whereas in Michigan, that's his minimum sentence. So the earliest he could get out is 2027. So you just see these disparities, everywhere. And it's like, it's so arbitrary and unclear and unfair, like 3 strikes rule where they would just increase your sentences with each charge that you got. It's just so it's very punitive. Like they're not trying to, even though like you might have like schools or churches within prison, they're not really trying to make you better. That's not the goal.
No.
And I think that our prison systems do need an overhaul.
Yeah, I feel like prison definitely saved my dad because he was somewhat of a kingpin in DC, and he would have definitely been dead. So I feel like I said, I feel like it saved him. And as far as the justice system in America, I feel like it's just another form of slavery for all people, all colors of people, and it's a business in America. Like a lot of people probably don't know about that, but they work for pennies and maybe dollars in prison to make stuff for companies. Yeah, so do your research on that. But
I think
yeah,
my
feel like
dad had a job where he got like less than a quarter an hour. I thought he was joking. I think he said like 17 cents. I really thought he was joking.
I think that number is common though. 17. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a psychological term that's used in the field of criminology to describe inmates. Sometimes there's different types of inmates and what they do when they are incarcerated. And there's one called doing time, which is what my dad is essentially, and which is kind of what Mick was describing with her dad as well. Whereas like they're built for this, or like they know how to do time. Like he says to us, I'm like, I know how to do prison. And like, what does that mean exactly?
Yeah.
Very institutionalized, and he's out now, and it's still that same type of framework. Like, what does that mean? He's a very dominant male, and it shows in every aspect. So I can see where like he still feels like he has to be like this very strong person, and he has to be the leader of his family. He has to run everything. He has to be in charge, and like can't nobody like come against him. And that's his kids, that's his lovers. It doesn't matter who it is. Nobody can challenge him. He's the male, like. And that's how he carried himself when he was locked up in prison as well. So it's still very much there. He's very institutionalized. And that's on purpose. I feel like the system is set up that way on purpose. And that's the only way he feel like, a lot of people feel like they can survive when doing time,
To add on, that's exactly how my father was when he came home. Like when I spent 3 months with him, he had that same mentality. So that I understand where she's coming from. And to add on to him, I feel as though prison saved my father and my mother. Well, unfortunately, my father, he just went back to jail. But I feel as though it saved my mother because she seen when she went away, she seen what she was missing out on, and she seen how it felt to be away from her kids, and she seen the impact it had on us as children when we gotta live with somebody else, because nobody else gonna treat you the same as they treat their own children. So she seen how that was, and so like I say, I feel as though prison saved my mom and dad, because my father would have probably been dead as well.
I would say the same for my father. I would say it's definitely rehabilitative, also punitive as well. Punitive more so on a personal level. My dad is very like intellectual. He actually had 2 lawyers when he first started serving, but when he got his sentence finalized, he was representing himself. So he's very smart and knows how to work around the system because he knows how the system treats especially African American men. But it was more so a punishment because he's that person. My father never had a job until he got out of prison. He never wanted to work with anyone, for anybody. He always worked for himself, tried to wait, even though some of the stuff was illegal, he never wanted to report to anyone else. And going to prison, that's not an option. You can't do that. So it was more so like a mindset for him, and it's like put him in a down state because he has to, do what everyone else tell him to do. He's on a schedule. And also, even though, he wasn't there present and physical with his children, it did, take a toll on him because he did see how it was affecting us, and not just, us in terms of our relationship with him, but our relationship with each other. And, no parent wants to be responsible for that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I feel like I'm just to piggyback right quick. I feel like it starts in our communities. I feel like if the resources were there, then maybe that could have been avoided, or like generational curses within our families, and we created generational curses. Like she said, he didn't want to work for anybody. He has an entrepreneur spirit. You feel me? So if he had the right resources and people around him to be able to, or opportunity to find his way in the entrepreneurship side, then he can be probably successful in that field. Just to throw that out there.
I agree with that, but I will also say that person has to, be responsible and utilize those resources, because my father, when he first, got out of high school and everything, a few years later, he went into food. And my grandmother, helped him put down a loan for a food truck and everything to start everything up. And he just wasted it. But once he got out of prison, he went and, finished his chef stuff. Like I don't know what it's called, but he got a degree. It wasn't culinary school, but it was something along the lines of that. But he ended up getting a degree for it. And then he ended up going into, construction. So it's like he knows what he wants, but he just like, if it's not instant, because that's what he's used to, what I'm alluding to, but that's what he's used to. He's used to instant money and being able to provide for everyone around him. And without, a consistent job isn't going to do that for him. So he, exhausts all his resources, and then it's like, now we can't depend on you. So you no longer, have that option.
I agree on like the resources thing. Like when someone is so used to fast money and the fast money lifestyle, like my dad has 8 kids. So fast money in his mind is the only way to provide for all 8 of his children. And he's a felon. Like I said, he was locked up when I was 2 years old. He's been a felon ever since. So it's very hard with 8 kids, being a felon, being used to that fast money hustle lifestyle. It's hard to really reintegrate into society the way that they want us to so bad, I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't want to, get that confused. It's definitely possible. But is it hard? It's extremely, extremely hard when you don't have the resources to do so.
I completely agree, because my dad was the same way. Like, I didn't know him, but I know the stories of him, and he was exactly the same way. Like, coming into a new country, and you don't know anything of the country, you don't know the language out of it itself, and you just need money to provide for your 4 toddlers at that point and an incoming baby, and then your wife, who also doesn't know how to speak the language. Like, you need fast money, and especially if they don't have a community to help them bring them up. Instead, they have like resources, in fact, just to like track them down and most likely put them in cages and then put them back. It's not helpful. But then when they go to prison, it's still not helpful, because you're not helping them at all. So, but he's also the same way as hers. Is he was very smart. He learned 5 languages when he was in there, and he got his GED. He was a citizen, yet they punished him by revoking it and deporting him all over again. So back to square one. And again, he's used to that fast money. So what do you do when you don't know what you can't do?
On this, so I'm hearing some common themes here. A couple of them. One is resources, and both inside of prisons, but also in quote unquote everyday society and community. So my final question to you all is, how important is it to have resources and community, both for people who are incarcerated and formerly incarcerated who have re-entered or re-entering society, right? Because we already know how difficult that can be as well. And then how important is it for us, or for you, both as college students and young people who have this lived experience, to have community and resources?
I would say it's 100% important for everybody you just listed, because when you think about the people that have a lack of resources in this world, they usually become poor, or they have a lack of resource to education, and they do become the incarcerated parents we're here talking about. Whereas you see the people with a lot of resources on the opposite end, they end up being working in those Fortune 500 companies, doing the jobs that we want to do, or just having the ability to have unorthodox jobs. We don't have the ability to have unorthodox jobs all the time.
And what do you mean by unorthodox jobs? What do you mean?
Just jobs they don't teach you about, as far as even being a psychologist. Lots of people don't think of being a psychologist. I know coming from my high school, it wasn't many kids in my high school that wanted to be a psychologist. And it's just other things like, or having a gym, because we met a trainer on the way here. That's an unorthodox job. So stuff like that. When you have a lack of resources, you don't have the opportunity to think of a job like that. You need to either get a normal job or, like they were saying, that fast money. Those are your only two options.
They're extremely important, these opportunities. I was fortunate enough to not go to my designated high school, which was like where we're low-income community, meaning low-income high school, wasn't the greatest opportunities there. So I was fortunate enough to transfer out to a different high school on the nicer part of town where they have these double-door garages and like double-door houses and just mansions in my eyes. And just even being there, one opportunity could have changed my life, but one opportunity with someone else's, they had 15 of these opportunities and they would get them every single day versus me. I would just see like for example, I had to take 2 buses just to get to school. They would be riding into their fanciest like luxury cars, and they like just those opportunities can make or break these like unorthodox like jobs that their parents have, so they already know what they're going to do versus what are we going to do? We don't have these opportunities. We don't even know the opportunities themselves. Like, what are they? So just even having some inkling of what is out there is so important, because if you don't know, you won't try.
I really agree with that, Althea, because there's so much stuff that you just don't think about. Like, people just close themselves off so easily, especially when you already like identify like as part of a community that doesn't have a lot of resources. Like, you know, your parents incarcerated, you know, you live in a like low income area, you just don't start thinking about stuff. Like you close yourself off. And I think that a big part of, you know, a big part of resources for younger people is just showing them what's out there. Like literally just
The exposure,
anything.
right?
Yeah, like just like there's so much out there that you just can close yourself off that other people think of like, you know, every other day. Like going to Italy. I went to Italy last year. I was like, what am I gonna do in Italy? Like I was like, there's no way I'm going. And like, why would I be in Europe? And I was like, actually, like, why not? The same thing with law school. I was thinking like, oh no, being a lawyer, that's like not like that's not. And I was like, why not? So I started asking myself that question more and more. But something that nobody has touched on yet is the resources for the incarcerated parents. And I think people talked about it a lot earlier about like parents coming out and then what they do after that. My dad hasn't, well, he has had that chance with his previous bids, but like I said, this one is his longest one. So like, I think about it and I get stressed like pretty often because I'm like, when you get out, you know, after 20 something years, like, you know, what's your move going to be? Like, cause you're already at a disadvantage. Like he has to, I remember he got a tablet like a couple years ago and like he had to learn how to use that. Like it's like the world is a very different place from what it was in 2002. The you know, the job market is different, you know, so I worry about that all the time because I'm like, his crime was motivated by some issues that he had when he was younger. And so it's like he had a drug issue. So I'm always thinking like, you know, what if this is his like last chance when he gets out and he blows it? And I get so scared of that because it's like where he is and like how long he's been in there, it feels like it's like you need a lot of love and a lot of resources to try and get out of that. And then even then it might not be enough, it feels like.
I feel like you gotta just make stuff happen. You feel me? Like you can't just take no for an answer. Like you gotta, if you want it, you gotta go get it. You feel me? Because it ain't about to be handed to you. Like I know you said exposure for resources and opportunities is there, but once it's exposed to you, like what you gonna do? Like you feel me? Like is you gonna like be in pity about it and want people to feel sorry for you, or you gonna keep moving? Because the way I live is like you gotta like take risks. Because you only get one opportunity. That's how I look at it in my eyes. You get one opportunity. Like, don't worry about anybody else. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. Because the train, it's going to keep moving. So either you get left or like you get on it. You feel me? So that's how I move and my advice.
And those resources, like, we can connect that to, expectations and societal standards. Like how he was talking about, the orthodox jobs. Or like the standard is you can only be a lawyer. The option is the lawyers, the doctors. But there's no, you can, like he was talking about psychology and everything like that. Or, be a psychiatrist and everything. There's other avenues that you can make money and you can still live up to the expectation of being great and being successful, but it's not traditional. And I think that that's where, even with our parents, it's like they don't see that for themselves too. Even though resources may be there or they may not be, it's also about, pivoting and, applying those resources to your life where they fit, not, to fit everyone else's standards. So
That's
I
why it's
think that's
important
important.
that we have people like us and from programs and for younger people to come and see us and we go see them in different occupations and everything to expose them to that. Because like I said, we didn't have that growing up that people, oh, this I become this, I become that, I become this. No, you feel me? So it's good to see us like going into communities and actually paying it forward now today. So
And let me just say really quickly, I love the fact that you all do that. And especially Deontay and Amir, I've seen you all literally once you come home, like you go back to your alma maters, your high schools, your elementary schools, middle schools, and talk to the students about, the things that you've seen, the things you've experienced, and just help to open up their minds even more. Did anybody else want to share before?
I just want to pick up on like some of the unorthodox jobs and like he mentioned the gyms. Growing up, my dad didn't have gyms like really in his neighborhood or they weren't like used. But now since he's got out, like I did say, he's a felon, so it was hard for him to pick up a job. He's super, super into fitness. And now we have a job, we have a gym in our community and he's a personal trainer. So like it's those unorthodox jobs, we don't realize like those types of resources like a gym, we see it as like, okay, so gym, like that's something regular that we have, but it's so important to someone else that doesn't have these type of opportunities to them, those resources for them. So he was able to switch it around. And I just want to say, like, maybe if he had a gym back then, he could have did something different with it, Because this has always been an interest of his. He just now is getting into it, though.
It's not common. So
Yeah.
it's like, you're not good enough. It's like when, I've heard stories. My sister, she wants to be an actress. You know what I'm saying? Or she wanted to at one point. Now she wants to be a nurse because she see how much, time you have to put into it. And, at first it's like, that's not achievable, or actresses don't, get jobs that often. So are you sure you really want to do that? And it's like you deter someone from their dreams and everything because you're not pouring into them because it's not something common and you know how much work you may have to put into it in order to achieve the success that you may want. So they stray away from it. So like she was saying, if that was there for him, is like, and someone probably supported, his fitness journey or fitness, perspective, it may have been like, okay, I can get paid this amount, I can set my own prices, I can have this amount of people, I can have this amount of days off, and then I can allocate this amount of time to whatever else I want to do. So
I think coming off of that, it's like you gotta also, like, you can get resources from your past. If you know what I'm saying? Like when you think back and think, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. Like, it's not helpful to like regret or to think woulda, coulda, shoulda. But it is helpful to think, oh, well, now I know, like, if I see an opportunity like this in the future, like, I want to be on the lookout for this. I want to be able to, like, utilize my skills in a way that I haven't before. So I think, especially for, people who have been incarcerated, like, when you come out, I feel like the first thing you should be thinking on is, think about your mistakes, even if they hurt. Or even now, like, even us, like, even if you're thinking back, like, oh, I wish I could have done that. I should have did that thing that I should have took advantage of that opportunity. Like, don't just wallow in it, but like really get out there and fix something. Be like, okay, I don't want to have to say that I did this again, so let me fix it this time. Like, let that embarrassment drive you.
And one thing I just want to say is, in terms of our parents when they re-enter society, and I'm sure that each of you have seen this in a lot of different ways, for those who say, I'm not going back. I'm not going to repeat the cycle, right? I don't want to go back through the revolving door of prison. And they're seeking these resources in our communities and jobs. One of the challenges that all of us and our parents and families have to keep kind of, I guess, knocking down that brick wall or, the glass ceilings and all of that, is that there are still a lot of very real stereotypes, right, about us and about our parents. And so there's a lot of discrimination if they want to work at a Walmart, or if they, not to say that that's the first choice, but you got to start somewhere, right? If you want to work a 9 to 5 or work as security officer or go into certain industries, if they see that you have a record, it's not even a conversation, right?
Absolutely.
And honestly, with scholarships, there have been a lot of no's, right? They didn't say why, but and not every assumption is a correct assumption, but a lot of times I can assume, oh, they're not ready for this yet. They're not ready to say we're supporting, and it's not even the incarcerated parents, it's their children, and it's like, oh nah, we ain't ready for that. That's too polarizing. It's too political. Why? We're supporting education. We're supporting young people. Why is that polarizing? Why is that political? But anyway, I digress. Is there anything before we wrap up that we didn't touch on that you want to share? Anybody want to share?
I just want to, go ahead. I just want to piggyback off what you were saying about them when they reintegrate into society, about having to start somewhere. Maybe a few months ago, I was having a conversation with my dad, and he came, and I've never seen him cry, like, to me. And he was sitting on the bed having a conversation. It was like, basically, he was tired because he had a situation, when he did construction, and something caught on fire, and basically his boss said it was his fault. So he was, let go. Mind you, I said he never had a job in his life. So this is like, okay, his step forward. He's like thinking, okay, I'm getting somewhere. And he's moving in the right direction. And then it's like, you got this step back, and then you revert to your old ways. And then you're like, with the, detriments that come with that, it's like, I'm tired. I don't want to continue to do this. And I'm like, well, you can start such and such. And he's like, well, that doesn't make this amount. That doesn't make, and I'm like, you have to start somewhere. You don't become a billionaire, a millionaire overnight. Like that's not possible. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's definitely important.
I just picking off of what you were saying, that stereotype, I've had to fight it off even in my extended family. Because once your parent has gone, you're immediately labeled, wow, so you're going right behind them, right? And you have to fight this off as a child, which is, you don't even understand basic concepts like in math yet you have to defend yourself because it's such a strong stereotype. And like growing up, no one really knows as children. You don't know what's good or bad, so you would be like, yeah, I have an incarcerated parent. Yet you would catch these looks of like my friends' parents saying, well, don't talk to her. Yeah. Go somewhere else. She is a bad influence. It's not even just that she might be. She is a bad influence. And that being my own family, it's like, wow, I have to fight that stereotype even in family and then also in jobs. My job currently doesn't even know that. They know I'm in a program, but they don't know the specifics. Just because I've been turned down before. I've been looked at weird before. And like, just like your dad, you get tired. Yeah. You get so tired. You don't want to explain to people who just don't want to listen and don't want to empathize of, it wasn't even me. And even if it was him, he's out. He's done his time. He's been on good behavior. He's been on parole. He's good. Why is that stereotype still there? And obviously we all know it comes back to race or color of our skin.
Yes. So, and media, how we're portrayed in media.
In media
right?
as well.
But anyway, I'm not going to open up Pandora's box because they have about 12 hours. But anyway, thank you all so much for being open and honest. This was an awesome conversation, and we're going to let the world hear it.